Good morning. My name is Dean Mullen. I'm the chair of the Chamber, the St. John Region Chamber of Commerce. I'd like to welcome you all today to our third edition of the Candidates Forum. We have a full slate of candidates this morning, so we're looking forward for a great conversation to be had amongst the issues that we have provided to the candidates. I'd like to start off with thanking everybody for attending and giving up some of your time to listen to what the candidates have to say. And also like to thank the candidates for giving up their time to be here to participate in this our third edition of the forum, of the Candidates Forum. It's a busy time for them, and it's important that we thank them for putting their names forward in a not so easy situation to have your name out there to be to volunteer to be to represent us in Ottawa. My personal ask to each one of them is twofold. Number one is to the temperature in politics right now is quite high. Let's do our best to be civil, to be respectful. Yesterday was a great example of what can happen when we have a conversation. And we must remember, a conversation, a good part of that is listening. So we had a great session yesterday, and I don't anticipate anything different today. And number two, let's ask each candidate to speak to their platform, what they're going to do, avoid critiquing the other parties. We want to hear what each candidate can do and what each party is going to do for us in Ottawa. So with that, I'll hand it over to Carol, and she will lay out the ground rules for this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean. Good morning and welcome to today's session, Our Region Matters. My name is Carol Cunningham and I'm the Director of Events for the St. John Region Chamber of Commerce. First, I want to thank our member, Encore Global, for their support for this event and providing us with the technology today. Just a couple of housekeeping rules. We ask that you click on your mute button to minimize any background noise. We will also provide you with an opportunity to ask questions at the end of the session if time permits. If you have any questions, please use the chat box at the bottom of your screen. Also, thank you to each of the candidates for taking the time off their busy schedule and to speak to the business community. The format this morning will allow us, each of the candidates, to do a presentation for an opportunity. The format this morning will be to allow each of the candidates to do a presentation for an opportunity for us to hear about their vision, their platform, and plans regarding business and economic development for the future of our region. It will then be followed by a Q&A where each of the candidates will respond. Before we begin, I'd like to ask David Duplessis, CEO of the Chamber, to please come forward and to begin the proceedings.
Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you to Dean and Carol. My name is David Duplessis, and it is my pleasure to be the CEO of the Chamber of Commerce for St. John Region. And I, too, would like to add my personal welcome to everyone. We are in challenging times, and the way that we've presented this forum in the past is slightly different, but our terms of reference have remained the same. We are a nonpartisan organization, and as such, do not favor or endorse any one party over another. This was of such importance to our founders over the last 200 years that this approach is actually embedded into our bylaws and our orders of operations. Now, the questions that we've received were curated by category, and the most frequent ones were selected. I do apologize to all of the candidates that an overwhelmingly tremendous volume of questions were received, and we sent all of them to the candidates initially, and I know that all the candidates spent a lot of time researching answers to these questions, and then we revised the questions down so that it was a more manageable size. So I thank all of the candidates for the research and the work that they've put into answering these questions. We do not permit candidates to compare and contrast or to trash other people's party policies, and we ask that you adhere to your own party policy. Now, to select which candidate goes first, I will select from the bowl, and the candidate to the immediate right will follow in succession. So let's begin. And our first speaker is John Williamson.
Well, good morning, or afternoon, or evening, depending on when you watch this. Challenge with these virtual meetings, we're never sure when they air. First of all, I want to thank the St. John Chamber of Commerce for hosting this debate for candidates in New Brunswick Southwest. My name is John Williamson. I'm the Conservative candidate, and I'm seeking re-election in this large, wonderful riding. I want to tell you, first of all, why I'm running or rerunning, and that is to ensure New Brunswick Southwest has a voice in Parliament. In fact, I think it's important for all of New Brunswick's 10 ridings to elect strong individuals who understand their regions and, importantly, understand this province. And that's because when we head to Parliament, New Brunswick, which has only 10 members of Parliament, is up against, for example, Ontario and Quebec with nearly 200. And that means that if we don't project our policies, our communities, and our plans clearly, we're not going to be heard in the federal Parliament or by the federal government. So some of the issues I've heard about over the last number of weeks and months and even years in New Brunswick Southwest are really local issues that are vital, I think, to our communities. It could be infrastructure for places like Grand Bay, Westfield, better rural internet service pretty much everywhere in southern New Brunswick, if not all of New Brunswick. A fisheries policy that makes sense for fishing communities, not only in New Brunswick Southwest, but on both sides of the Bay of Fundy. And of course, jobs in the economy and our recovery, which is vitally important to exiting the pandemic and ensuring we as Canadians land on our feet. But I think the most important thing to take away from today's debate and discussion is who's the best person to stand up for not only New Brunswick Southwest, but be there as a partner for New Brunswick. And so one of the things I've always tried to do after the election, because you'll probably hear some debating today, some different ideas, and maybe even a little bit of tension between candidates. But it's always important at the end of the campaign, something I've always done, is to put away the party colors and to work with our partners, whether those partners are in Fredericton or the federal government, as well as our municipalities. So my rule has always been put away the colors and work with any mayor, any LSD, and a provincial government that could be Liberal or Conservative, and the same thing at the federal level to work with the federal government. Because I think there's a good chance after this election we're going to have another minority government, which makes it imperative to elect an individual who's able to work and get things done. I think I have a proven record, both holding the government of the day accountable, while at the same time delivering results for New Brunswick Southwest. So sit back, as we're going to do, enjoy the debate, and I hope this will help you make an informed choice on September 20th. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Okay, our next candidate that we're going to hear from is from the Green Party, and we're going to hear from John as well, another John.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, as John Williams said. My name is John Reist. I'm representing the Green Party. I am not a politician. Don't wear a suit. Actually, I'm a retired mailman. And I believe that there are problems with our country in terms of climate change, health care, employment. Sorry, I have technical issues, I think, here. As I say, I'm the CEO of New Brunswick Southwest Greens, and what I want to do is create a presence for the Green Party in our riding. Let people know that that the Green Party is there, and to help with our community with issues. Many people look at the Green Party as a one-issue party. We are not. We stand for aggressive social policies that make housing and education accessible. We stand for ethics in government, telling the truth, and making the electoral system work for your vote counts. In fact, we stand for most things that Canadians stand for, and that is why I am running for the Green Party. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Okay, our next speaker will be Meryl Sardi from the People's Party of Canada.
Hello to the people of New Brunswick and people in this Southwest riding. I keep my hat on because these lights are killing me. They're in my eyes and stuff like this. But why am I here is one of the questions I've just heard, and I think I'd like to address that one. The reason I am here is because we have a government in Ottawa that is no longer accountable. We have a government in Ottawa that is not responding to us, the people who put them there. And that's a problem. We've just gone through a whole bunch of lockdowns, and we've gone through a whole bunch of protests. Thank God, from a bunch of ladies, tiger ladies, mother bears they call them, who are standing up for their children, for their lives, for their way of life in New Brunswick, and have been very much harmed by these lockdowns that we've had about this pandemic thing. So we keep saying in this country, somebody should do something. Somebody should do something. Well, we've been waiting for that somebody for a long time. And it comes now a time in our country for patriots. And I'm looking for patriots. And I want to be a patriot. I want to be one who stands here for our whole country. And I'll stand here for our riding here, our New Brunswick Southwest. But our first priority is to make sure that our country survives, to make sure that our country comes back to the country that we knew and loved, to make sure that we have accountability in our government and our elected representatives. And I am there for that. I'm 77. I'm too old for this bull. It's not what I wanted to do at this stage of the game. But I'm here for the grandchildren. I'm here for the children. I'm here for the future of our country and our flag, and not to be a post-national country under the United Nations. I'm here for us and our country and our people and the culture that we have in this country that made it one of the most wonderful countries in the world that people fought to come here and to be a resident of. That's why I'm here. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Our next speaker will be Richard Warren from the NDP.
Hello, everyone. So thank you to David, Carol, and the entire St. John Region Chamber of Commerce for this opportunity to say hello. First of all, I'd like to acknowledge that I walk the traditional unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq, Wolastoqiyik, and Pescatomakati people. I honor the knowledge keepers. I seek their guidance as I strive to develop a closer relationship with all Indigenous peoples. I'd like to state my respect for the elders, past and present, and the descendants of this land. So I'd like to start off actually by telling you a little bit more about myself. I know with this snap election, it's been hard to get out and meet a whole lot of people and let them know what you're all about. So I think it's important that you know a little bit of who I am. I'm an Islander. I was raised in Mount Pearl, Newfoundland and Labrador. As a kid, spent pretty much all my time on my bike trying to find a sport to play. Loved being outside. Graduated from Memorial University with a Bachelor of Science in Applied Mathematics and Computer Science. Despite this education, my partner and I, when in our late 20s, we really wanted to get away to Saskatchewan for a family event that was happening, and we couldn't manage to scrounge up the funds, so we decided that we had to succumb to the brain drain and pack up all our stuff and throw what we could in a U-Haul behind our Jetta and head to Saskatchewan. And Saskatchewan was great to us. It gave us an opportunity to find a home, to grow a family. I found employment with Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada, who I'm still employed with today. I work at the Fredericton Research Centre on Lincoln Road. My partner and I got married in Banff on Canada Day. It was very special. But as nice as it was in the prairies and the mountains, we missed it back east here. We missed it home. Newfoundland's a great place to be from, but I wasn't interested in going that far back. New Brunswick suits us just fine. We managed to land in Fredericton, where we rented for a year and a half to discover this beautiful province, and we settled in Hanwell, where we've been for about 8 years now. Beautiful Hanwell. Then, not long after COVID hit, that gave me an opportunity to reset my life. As someone who's struggled, with demons and had some dark paths, I know COVID is had some negative impacts on a lot of people, but for me, it really gave me a chance to turn it off and on again. So I didn't have to get up and follow the routine every day. I didn't have to get the kids to school and worry about all those things. I had those extra couple of minutes every day to work on myself and improve my own humanity. And I believe a lot of us struggle in life. My struggles and my growth have taught me a lot. They've taught me the importance of listening. They've taught me to never judge. They've taught me to see the good in everyone. And they've taught me that you need to help people in need. Now, each of those things individually is an important lesson for all of us, but together, when you get them together, the ensemble effect, you can change the world. And together, all these improvements in my life called me to action. They called me here. I look at the world that my children will inherit, and I am fearful. I see a prevalent bully culture that seems to claim that you can only get ahead by keeping someone else back. I see people so exhausted from unchecked predatory practices in our industries that they don't even want to wave and say hello to their neighbors. I see bitter lateral violence and microaggressions in government. It's so bad that it's driving people away from politics and the democratic process. And while all this deeply saddens me, I don't fault anyone for how they feel. We need leaders who can course correct. And I don't think I'm special, but I'm ready to be. I think we struggle with the words here to figure out why we're up here. And to me, it's a job interview. It's the longest job interview of my life. And I want this job. I want to be your voice in Ottawa. I'm asking you to put your faith in me, because I promise you that I will be the leader you deserve. I will fight for you. I am ready to lead because I know I can do better. We're going to have a few questions coming up here, but I'd like to touch on a couple of the things that are axiomatic to me. We'll get to them in detail, I'm sure, but the most important things to me as an individual are taxation and revenue issues I think we have going on now that are fueling inequality. I'm deeply concerned about the climate crisis. I'm also deeply concerned about people's welfare. And yeah, I believe I can do better. I look forward to your questions. I look forward to this great discussion. Thank you again for your time. Thank you again for your engagement. New Brunswick Southwest, thank you. Please remember, I know it's COVID and there's a lot going on, but let's get out and let's vote. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Richard. Now, last but not least will be Jason Hickey, representing the Liberal Party of Canada.
Good morning. My name is Jason Hickey, and I am running for the Liberal candidate. I am the Liberal candidate for the riding of New Brunswick Southwest. I am honored to be here with the St. John Chamber of Commerce today, and I hope by the end of this event, I can convince you all here and the viewers watching how important it is to bring New Brunswick Southwest back to the right side of government. Before I talk about why you should support me and the Liberal Party's vision for Canada, I wanted to introduce myself. I'm originally from St. John's, Newfoundland, and I learned from a young age the importance of hard work, representation, and fighting for what you believe in through the actions of my mother, Bonnie Hickey, the first female Member of Parliament for St. John's East. Throughout my career in hospitality and the tourism sector, my goal has been making my clients' businesses more successful. My consulting practices focuses on reducing wasteful spending, making businesses more efficient, and ensuring we hire the right people for the right job. My role as a business development manager at a hospitality consulting firm, I was able to increase productivity and the firm's clientele by 40% in a 6-month period. During my work here in hotels in New Brunswick, I took a hotel with a poor record of meeting the chain standards and turned it around to exceeding those same standards. It is with my business experience and my attitude that I will bring to Ottawa as the Member of Parliament for New Brunswick Southwest. We are at a crossroads. Canada has a choice and an opportunity to decide on how we get through this pandemic and build back better. You know what I want? I would like a Liberal government that works for each and every one of you here in New Brunswick. My vision for New Brunswick Southwest involves climate change. My vision for New Brunswick Southwest involves supporting each and every one of you, whether it's through affordable housing, helping our seniors, or $10 a day childcare. The COVID-19 pandemic caused a great economic shrinkage since the Great Depression, but we acted swiftly and decisively to support workers and businesses, launching one of the most enormous support packages for the G7. Not everyone agreed with this decision, but we had Canada's back. We want to invest in homegrown small businesses, supporting workers and creating jobs and growth, because we know that our recovery had to be for everyone. Recovery is underway in Canada, but recovery can't just be about getting things back to the way they were before. It should be about making things better. It's about making Canada a global leader in the race for talent and making it easier and fairer for Canadians to get a job, and by removing the barriers to work, such as childcare. It's about helping our businesses grow, especially small businesses, and making them competitive in the digital future. It's about innovation, entrepreneurship, and determination for Canadians. Our plan for Canada is responsible because it invests in things that Canadians need now and into the future, and to lead out the COVID-19 and to build a foundation for strong growth in the future. It recognizes that COVID-19 has exposed major problems major problems that require major solutions. Whether the government needs to step up and make real change happen, and it invests in these priorities in a very targeted way. I know we need a strong federal government that works for everyone, and if elected as your Member of Parliament, I will make sure that the voices of New Brunswick Southwest are heard. I decided to run for office because I believe the Liberal Party has the correct vision for a brighter future for Canadians. and I hope I can convince you as well. But I can't do this alone. If you believe in my vision, the Liberal Party's vision, I need each and every one of you to come out on September 20th and vote for the Liberal Party so that we can move forward for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Okay, we're going to move on to the questions now. The first question that I'm going to ask talks a little bit about our riding here. Now, our riding is very diverse, not only diverse from a social perspective, geographical perspective, it really crosses over a number of different areas, so it's a complicated riding. Now, governments, we've always maintained, should not be in the role of creating jobs, but rather create the environment that allows the private sector to create the jobs. So, what are 3 specific things that your party will do to improve job creation in our riding? And keep in mind that it's a very vast riding with rural and urban divide as well. So we are going to start the first question, again moving over to here, will be with John Rice. So John, if you would like to answer the first question, what are the 3 specific things your party will do to improve job creation environment in our riding?
Yes, well, the 3 things that I see are housing, healthcare, and education. If we are wanting to attract employers to this region, we need to have housing. If we don't have housing, we can't attract workers. As I say, in southwest New Brunswick, a lot of small businesses who are in the tourism industry cannot go and find workers to work during the summer because they couldn't find rental accommodations for their employees, as well as there are businesses that want to go and move into the area, but they cannot find employees, find rental accommodation for their employees. And then say healthcare. If I want to have a business, I want to have health care. So my employees can be taken care of. And as I say, what we have in our area is a very poor, broken healthcare system. In South, we have the regional hospitals here in St. John, but elsewhere in the rural environment of our riding, there is not that much in the way of medical facilities. As I say, we do have a hospital in St. Stephen, but every 4 years we have to worry whether or not they will close it. We also have a problem of doctors. As I said, there's fewer and fewer doctors. Recently, when I retired, I went and decided I wanted to change to a new doctor. And I phoned around to the available doctors that tried to find a new doctor, and I found a lot of doctors were not practicing anymore or had moved on to other locations. I did find a doctor. I found a doctor in St. George, and he was the only doctor in that area. And education. We need education for the future, because there's for the new work environment that will be happening in the future.
Okay, well, thank you so much. We're going to move on to our next candidate, which is Meryl Sardi from the People's Party of Canada, and I will repeat the question. As governments should not really be involved in the process of creating jobs, but rather creating the environment for the private sector to create jobs, what are 3 specific things your party will do to improve the job creation environment in our riding?
Okay, forgive the hat, but the light's in my eyes. And so To improve the job creation, I've talked to a lot of employers down here and employers across the country who are all facing the same problem. They're saying there's all kinds of jobs available right now, but there are a whole lot of people who are receiving money to sit at home and draw on our national welfare programs and not have to go to work. And they're saying, why should I go to work when I can make more money at home and not have to get up in the morning? So a big problem for us here for business is that we've got a whole lot of people who don't want to work. There's all kinds of work, there's all kinds of jobs available, but the story from them is that they can't find workers. It's too easy at home. Second thing is I don't believe in throwing money at small businesses. I think when people work to save up and invest in a business that they have put the work into, I think those businesses very often are successful. I don't believe in the government throwing money at business and people trying to build a business on other people's money. Now, what I see as a solution to that is lots of low-interest loans for entrepreneurs, for people wanting to start small organizations, small businesses. Government loans, not gifts. And those will be low-interest loans so that the people who are working and are building the future with workforce are they're not stretched out. They can put their money and their assets to work and try to build their business and not be bound down by government involvement, and that goes along with government loans as well, but to have their own say in building their business and to have the advantage of low-interest loans that they can pay back over time. They're not forgivable loans. It makes them responsible, and it makes them make responsible decisions to build our business back into our area. Now, get my glasses on here. Okay, the other thing, and then you'll find this in the PPC platform, is that we want to get the oil sands up and running. That is the fastest way that we can get our economy rolling again. And we have all kinds of people in the Maritimes who have gone to the oil sands and who have made their money there and bring that money back to the Maritimes and then invest it here in their businesses and their homes and such. And I think that's a great thing. And I think we need to get the oil fields up and running, get this pipeline coming east. We can go a long way there and sell our oil to the world. Instead of buying it from the Middle East, as we are right now, and transporting it across the ocean in ships to here, and paying carbon tax on oil that comes from another country. I think that's all I have to say on that.
Thank you so much. So our next speaker will be Richard Warren with the NDP party.
Repeat the question, sorry.
Yes. As governments should not really be involved in the process of creating jobs, but rather creating the environment to create the jobs. What are 3 specific things your party will do to improve the job creation environment in our riding?
Thank you. Yeah, so in order to help foster job creation in this riding, I think 3 things that we look at as New Democrats. Number 1 is just simply raise the minimum wage. I think if your work is not properly valued, chances are you won't apply, you won't stay, because it's just not worth it. I think for far too many people, employment is almost akin to just slavery with more steps. I think we need to pay people what they're worth. And I believe it's on the federal government to ensure that people are being offered a respectful wage that allows them to be the consumer that they want to be. So that's the first thing, is we can raise the minimum wage. The second thing is we need to operate strong social programs. The OECD has clearly stated that strong social programs and healthy healthcare environment will give you a competitive advantage on a global scale. So this is things like sick days, healthcare, pharmacare, dental care. All these items can remove the insurance burden from small businesses if they're provided by the country. Another thing for strong social programs, obviously, is daycare. If you are comfortable leaving your child at a space where he or she will have an enjoyable day, you're going to increase the power of your workforce with parents. That's the second thing, strong social programs. And the third thing I would point out is telecommunications right now. I believe we're living in the middle of a new normal. This necessity that we've had to work from home for some of us has proven its value. This new way of working, I believe internet access can help raise your living standard, and having access to broadband connection can open new employment opportunities for anyone, anywhere. I believe we should be doing everything we can to ensure that people have a right to broadband access. And I think we need to stop the CRTC from enabling monopolies. I personally would like to see ISPs labeled as common carriers, because I believe we can do better. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Richard. Okay, we're going to move down to Jason Hickey with the Liberal Party of Canada. Jason, what are 3 specific things that your party will do to improve the job creation environment in our riding?
Thank you, David. Thanks to our emergency programs and hard work of Canadians, we are almost at our goal of creating 1 million jobs. To date, Canada has recovered 92% of those jobs lost during the pandemic. And by comparison, the United States has only recovered 95% of jobs lost. The 3 specific things that the Liberal Party will do to improve the job creation environment of the St. John region are supporting Canadian businesses and taking advantage of the digital economy, making it easier for small businesses to invest and grow, and making sure that we hire the right people for the right jobs to address our labor shortages. The digital economy is here to stay, and during the pandemic, we did more online business than ever. As the digital economy grows, we have to make sure that the Canadian businesses are poised to compete and win. That is why we have a plan to help almost 160,000 small and medium-sized businesses to adopt new technologies, digitize their offerings, and we will create jobs for almost 30,000 young people in the process to assist small and medium-sized businesses to adopt new technologies. Canada's small business and improve initiatives entrepreneurs who scale up their companies and create good jobs and need access to the financing in order to recover, create good jobs, and invest in long-term growth. We will move forward with our plan to unleash investments by improving the Canada Small Business Financing Program. This will increase an annual financing for an estimated $560 million. We know for some areas of the country and certain sectors that recovery has remained uneven. That is why we will extend the Canada Recovery Hiring Program from March 31st, 2022, so businesses can hire more workers and Canadians can get back on the job. We also need to take action to address labor shortages that will make sure businesses can grow and capitalize on the opportunity of recovery. We will make it easier for workers to connect with employers, attract global talent, and provide the training and workers businesses need to succeed. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. And our next speaker will be John Williamson with the Conservative Party of Canada.
Well, thank you. I think it's a great question to kick things off here with the business community and creating jobs throughout New Brunswick Southwest, and for that matter, all of Canada. There are 3 things that we're going to do to specifically help Main Street. We have seen, as we've gone through this pandemic and now as we begin to exit it, just how small businesses have been laid on their back. In many cases, owners have poured their own savings into the businesses, yet as the pandemic continued, they've been virtually wiped out of those savings and now looking for some help. So our 3 policies to create job. Number 1, the job surge tax credit. For the first 6 months, the federal government under Conservative government will pay 25% of the wages of any new hires. It's important to get people back to work. We have to turn the CERB relief, the CERB checks into paychecks. Number 2, businesses when they invest into or individuals when they invest into a small business normally expect to grow that business and reap a return. But to kickstart that, we want to offer Canadians that invest in a small business up to 25% of a tax break on their first $100,000 as a way of encouraging and incentivizing Canadians to invest in a small business. So not just the future gains of a successful business, but also as a way to ensure individuals are investing again in Main Street. And then finally, we recognize that some businesses just need a helping hand. So we're looking at loans to businesses of up to $200,000, part of which could be repayable depending on the severity of how that business was hit over the last 18 months. Those are our kind of three top line plans to create jobs, help small businesses, and get this economy rolling once again. Of course, there's other items I'll be talking about here this morning as well around the need for housing. If workers cannot find housing in our municipal communities, it's hard for businesses to find workers. And on top of that, we have a tax credit to help modest income workers take away more take-home pay at the end of the day. But I look forward to talking about that in the next round. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Now, through the answers, we've seen that there are a lot of interdependencies between some of the initiatives that would enable us to create an environment to create jobs. You know, healthcare is important. We know that the skills gap's important. But it all comes down to population growth in one sense. We need more people. We need more people to fill these jobs, not only in healthcare, but all of the different industries that are in our riding. So we need to attract immigrants if we're to advance. So what plans do you have to support and enhance immigration to our region? And we start the first one with Meryl Sarti from the People's Party of Canada.
Okay. We've had a lot of immigration in our country in recent years, and that's grown very much with our government. And the standards for that immigration are not what they could be. We've allowed a lot of people into our country who don't have the skills or the will to integrate into our society and work within our society. It's put a tremendous strain on our housing. My understanding is we're taking in immigrants at around 1,000 a day. I don't know if that's correct or not, but that's the figures I've been given. And many of those immigrants do not have the ability to be self-sustaining. Now, in our PPC platform on immigration, we're looking at cutting the immigration down to a number of maybe 150,000 a year, and that we will have standards that those immigrants will meet. And those standards will be the ability to be self-sustaining, the ability to support themselves in our society and not come here and live off the welfare of a society like it's happening right now. Now, we've got a tremendous, with the numbers that we've got, it's put a tremendous strain on our housing. And the future of the immigrants that we've taken in is not good in terms of them being self-sustaining and being able to build their own housing, their stuff. And that brings us to another issue in housing, and that is, here in New Brunswick, all of a sudden, with our Irving associated government between Higgs and Irving, we've had a 400% or better increase in the cost of basic building materials like wood. That's a strong detriment to the problem of building new housing in New Brunswick. If the cost goes up by 400%, we're going to have a hard time putting up buildings that we can afford to build. People can't build their own homes right now. They can't afford the materials. People can't fix up their own homes right now because they can't afford the materials. And I think that's a big problem here. And the problem is not about how to throw more money at that. I think it's a problem of learning to deal with Irving, for instance.
Check.
Is my time up? Okay. Yeah. Irving is controlling the prices, and that is hard on our ability to build houses. The first thing we could do is deal with that.
Thank you, Meryl. Okay, moving on to Richard Warren from the NDP party. We need to attract more immigrants if we're to advance. What plans do you have to support and enhance immigration to our region?
Thank you. First of all, some great points, Meryl. I believe COVID has proven to us that from the outside, when your populace looks healthy, people want to move there. We saw an influx, and we put that on the backs of how well we did in COVID. So again, I think it goes back to, if we support our public health care and strong social programs, that makes your locale attractive. Again, OECD says it's an economic advantage. So when we tackle issues like guaranteed living income, fixing minimum wage, giving out sick days, so when people need them, pharmacare, childcare, affordable housing, as Merle said, these are all very, very important to the attractiveness of your region. I think once you establish those things, the next thing you need is responsible, empathic, and actioned leadership, so that people know that they matter, and so that people know that gender doesn't matter, and so that people know that skin color doesn't matter, that religion doesn't matter, so that people know that stigmas and prejudices that we hold, they do matter, and they make a difference. Good leadership, I believe, can lead us past this, because leaders who care will attract others who care. I think we could all use a little more caring right now. Thanks.
Okay, we're moving down to Jason Hickey. Jason, what are your party's plans to support and enhance immigration to our region?
Thank you. Attracting and keeping skilled immigrants in the New Brunswick Southwest region is vital to growing the region. We will make it easier for workers to connect to employers, attract global talent, and provide the training workers and businesses need to succeed. That is why we launched a rural and northern immigration pilot to bring skilled newcomers to smaller communities and help local economies grow. A re-elected Liberal government will reform economic immigration programs to expand pathways to permanent residence to support temporary foreign workers and former international students through the Express Point Entry System. We will build on the Economic Mobility Pathways pilot and work with employers and communities across Canada to welcome 2,000 skilled refugees to fill labor shortages in demand sectors such as healthcare. We will establish a trusted employer system to streamline the application processes for Canadian companies hiring temporary foreign workers to fill labor shortages that cannot be filled with Canadian workers. And last, we will continue to work with provinces, territories, and regulatory bodies to improve foreign credential recognition.
Thank you, Jason. Okay, last but not least, John, what are your party's plans to support and enhance immigration to our region?
Well, thanks for the question. You know, one of the bills that I was working on before this needless pandemic election was called was a bill in Parliament that would allow doctors who settled in rural Canada to speed up the process of becoming a citizen if they served in the hospitals in our rural community. That's the kind of thinking I think we need in rural Canada, in New Brunswick Southwest, to attract not only doctors, but new Canadians. The question, though, I think needs to be broadened out. It's not just about attracting immigrants and new Canadians, but also, as we've discovered during the pandemic the last 18 months, Canadians are discovering New Brunswick. We have seen an influx of individuals, some retired, some workers, throughout New Brunswick. And this is an opportunity, I think, for our province to attract workers and families from other parts of the country, whether it's because we've managed the pandemic better than most, whether it's because there are opportunities here both for work and affordability. This is a new opportunity for New Brunswick that I think we should seize. Now, as well, we have some success stories in New Brunswick Southwest. In the municipality of St. George and the environment, as well as Deer Island, over the last decade, we've seen how the Filipino community has revitalized the area, in particular Deer Island. It's been a shot in the arm to the local economy. As well, it's also revitalized the Catholic Church in the area, as most Filipinos are both church-going and Catholic. So it's had a noticeable impact, and it's also created a young and dynamic workforce. So one of the things that I think the federal government has to do is to work with the provincial government on where the jobs are and what skills are needed in New Brunswick Southwest. And there's a program, a federal program called the Provincial Nominee Program that allows employers and the province to set criteria for the federal government to ensure that not only do we get immigration to our province, but it's immigration that's working for the province and contributing to the economy and to our communities. And that's the kind of work I want to see continue from the next federal government. Thank you.
Thank you, John. And we're going over to the Green Party of Canada for the last answer on immigration. So, John?
We need immigration here in New Brunswick. I am an immigrant. I moved here 14 years ago from Ontario. I made New Brunswick my home, built a log home, and for the last 11 years I was working as a rural mail driver. And going door to door, I meet a lot of other people who have come from other provinces and moved to New Brunswick to make their home. It's interesting. It's like a back home week. We're sharing where we came from, but so we need immigrants from who come from other parts of the province, other provinces, but we also need the foreign immigrants. And the foreign immigrants, a lot of people will say, we shouldn't have them, but the foreign immigrants that I have met have been good workers. They've are integrated with the community. They're self-sustaining. They have a good working a good working standard, and they're needed. They're Thank you.
Thank you, John. Now, one of the themes. Oh, Richard Warren. No. Oh, yeah, the next question. Okay, Richard Warren will be the next question. Now, one of the themes that have surfaced as a problem area is healthcare. And we've heard it as its relation to a lot of the other issues as well. And transfer payments. We know that transfer payments are an issue unto itself as to who generates the funds and who receives the funds. But we know that transfer payments are critical to ensuring an equitable healthcare system. But throwing money at a problem doesn't necessarily fix that. And we've seen that in a number of occasions. So how do you plan to work with the province to attract more healthcare professionals and to create a more sustainable system in the future? And our first speaker will be Richard Warren with the NDP.
Thank you. Hi. Yeah, so first of all, I believe we need to fix some of our revenue issues so that the federal government can get back to 50-50 partnership in funding healthcare. I would argue that this might actually be one problem that really does need some money thrown at it. Because we already know how to spend a lot of it. We have a lot of shortages, we have a lot of things that we can fill, we have a lot of spaces we could fill. And again, a fully funded healthcare system benefits everyone. It gives us a competitive advantage. But healthcare and healthcare workers are just like any other job, any other sector. If conditions are bad, if the atmosphere is toxic, if wages are insufficient, and if there's too much work for too few people, you will lose talent and you will have a hard time attracting more. I do believe that there's room for private sector services in healthcare. However, I also believe that governments are tasked to make sure that everyone's taken care of. I believe for-profits cannot dominate social services like long-term care. That's painfully clear. I do believe we need to avoid a race to the bottom in healthcare. Canadians, I believe, want to continue to be proud of their healthcare system. And I believe, again, a healthy, welcoming province will attract more talent. All we need are leaders who are ready to do the right thing. Because I believe once we have that, once we have leaders who are ready to do the right thing, I believe we will do better. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Okay, moving down to Jason Hickey. Jason, how do you plan to work with the province to attract more healthcare professionals and create a more sustainable system for the future?
Thank you. Canadians are proud to have a public health care system that is a model to the world, and that didn't happen by accident. It is the result of Canadians' beliefs that we take care of each other. Accessible, well-funded public health care is a cornerstone of equality in Canada, and it is invaluable as we get through this pandemic. We cannot fight our public health care system and take it for granted. Millions of Canadians face problems accessing primary care. We want to help solve these problems and improve Canadians' access to universal public health care. That is why a re-elected Liberal government will provide $3.2 billion to the provinces and territories for hiring 7,500 new family doctors, nurses, and nurse practitioners. We also understand that rural Canadians have a significantly less access to doctors than Canadians in the urban settings. We need to entice and keep our medical professions here in New Brunswick Southwest. That is why a re-elected Liberal government will expand the number of family doctors and primary health teams in rural communities by increasing the maximum debt relief that family doctors, nurses, and nurse practitioners are eligible for under the Canada Student Loan Forgiveness Program by 50%, from $40,000 to $60,000 over 5 years. And offer healthcare professionals who are starting out in their careers a one-time tax deduction up to $15,000 for their first 3 years of practice to help with the cost of setting up practice. We know that lots of rural communities are facing a shortage of doctors and nurse practitioners and other healthcare and social service workers that keep communities strong. We believe everyone should have access to primary care.
Thank you, Jason. Okay, our next speaker will be John Williamson, the Conservative Party.
Thank you. Another incredibly important question, as we seen during the pandemic, is how vital the healthcare system is. An elected Conservative government is proposing to transfer to the provinces an additional $60 billion over the next 10 years. Now, the moderator is right. Money doesn't solve all our problems. But you know what? It sure does help. And this added transfer from a Conservative government to the provinces would help with things like better mental health support, better pay for our nurses in particular, more availability of services to people that are waiting in line. So we have a good plan to spend federal dollars where I think it's the priority of Canadians to do that. And I want to address an issue that everyone else talked about, which is we need more nurses, we need more doctors. But you know what? Every jurisdiction is saying that. There is a shortage of medical professionals. And that's why I want to come back to that bill I just talked about. We need to attract more individuals to this country, to this province, and to New Brunswick Southwest who have the skills to treat people, whether they're doctors or nurses. And that's why, should I be reelected on September 20th, I'm going to move ahead with that bill that I was working on before this needless, unnecessary election that will see individuals who practice in rural communities be able to qualify for citizenship faster than they otherwise would. I think the deal should be if someone comes to this country, takes a job in a hospital, as a nurse, as a doctor, they should be able to become citizens even faster. Thank you very much.
Okay, our next speaker is John Reist with the Green Party of Canada.
No. Okay, the question again?
Healthcare transfer payments are critical to our healthcare system, but throwing money at a problem does not necessarily fix it. How do you plan to work with the province to attract more healthcare professionals and create a sustainable system for our future?
Well, in terms of our party, we don't really have any say. It'll be probably the Liberals or the Conservatives who have a minority government. But Our party, what we are seeing is our healthcare system must be fixed. If I would represent this riding as the NP, I would protect the healthcare system and ensure that both federal and provincial governments keep their commitment and make them do better. As I say, we have to do something. There's problems with doctors, problems with hospitals, problems with getting treatments. And as I say, as the member of parliament, as a representative, I would put both the provincial and the federal government an account to get things changed.
Thank you. Okay, our next speaker will be Meryl Sardi with the People's Party of Canada.
Thank you. I see a lot of attempts to throw money at this problem and solve it that way, and government programs to solve this problem. But I'd like to look at the deeper issue, and that issue is, where does this problem come from? I think probably New Brunswick is the fat capital of Canada. We have more obese people, overweight, than the rest of the country. And that obesity and that overweight is the beginning of a whole raft of problems, health-wise, that we suffer as we get older. And our older population is getting in worse shape health-wise. And there's no need of that. That can be prevented if we have programs of nutrition, natural medicine, good food, exercise, okay? And having strong immune systems instead of depending on pharmaceuticals all the time. The pharmaceutical industry has taken over all of our health. And they have an interest. They have an interest. And that interest is not to cure us from what ails us. It's to treat us for what ails us. And it's the biggest industry in the world, and it's as corrupt as all get out. So before we think about getting more doctors, throwing more money at all this, one of the things we can do is look at the health of our country. Look at what it takes to stay healthy and active into your old age and not have to depend on medications. Now, my understanding, and I've heard from a lot of people my age, I'm 77, they're on up to 15 different pills, okay? And that's the normal. When I go to a hospital, and I don't go to a hospital very much, if I break a finger or something like that, yeah, I go to the emergency ward. And they ask me, what are you taking? What medications are you taking? And I say, I don't take medications. I have a strong immune system. I eat well, my food is good, I look after my health, and here I am. I'm able to sing and dance. We're not teaching that to our population. We're not teaching that to our children. We're not teaching the responsibility of that. And I believe that with entitlement to a health system, and we've got a pretty good health system, it's just overworked.
Time check.
Okay. Our responsibility is to teach good nourishment, good taking care of your body, and we won't need all of this. We won't need all of this. I think that's where we should look at the root of the problem. Thank you.
Thank you. And our next speaker will be Richard Warren. Oh, did you start? Okay, new question, I'm sorry. Now, we've heard about affordable housing as an issue that has come up on a number of occasions. So how do you plan to stimulate investment in the private sector to promote growth? Do you have plans for rent controls? And are you going to tax the proceeds from a home sale, even if it's your private residence? And our first speaker will be Jason Hickey.
Thank you, David. And let me be clear, we will not institute a home equity tax on primary residence. Our Liberal team has a plan to put home ownership in the reach of more middle-class Canadians and families in New Brunswick Southwest, to reduce house flipping in the marketplace and to help cool excessive price growth. A re-elected Liberal government will establish an anti-flipping tax on residential properties, requiring properties to be held for at least 12 months. Canadians who encounter changes in life circumstances due to pregnancy, death, new jobs, divorce, or disability will be exempt from this policy. The Liberal Party platform on affordable housing is based on a three-pronged approach: unlocking home ownership, building more homes, and protecting your rights. We need to support Canadians in their goal of becoming homeowners. That is why our plan will help renters become owners, help young Canadians afford a down payment faster, and help them reduce closing costs that come with the purchasing of a home. Our plan will rebuild and revitalize an additional 250,000 homes over 4 years, on top of the 285,000 homes currently being built each year. This will mean nearly 1.4 million homes will be built, preserved, or revitalized by 2025-2026. Under a re-elected Liberal government, we will also be instituting a home buyer's Bill of Rights so that the process of buying a home is fair, open, transparent. To better protect renters, and re-elected Liberal government will stop rent evictions by deterring unfair rent increases that fall outside the normal charge and rent. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Our next speaker is John Williamson.
Thank you. Look, this has become one of the biggest issues in my constituency office, and probably constituency offices right across New Brunswick. The simple fact is, here in New Brunswick and across the country, we're not keeping up, we're not building enough homes, that is, to keep up with Canada's growing population. And that's why homes are getting harder for Canadians, New Brunswick families, to buy or even to rent. We're all seeing the headlines in the Telegraph Journal, the Times and Transcript, and the Daily Gleaner about evictions and rent increases in our big cities. But it's also happening in our towns, municipalities, and rural areas. It's one of the biggest issues that Granby Westfield, the municipality, is trying to address, because they recognize to grow, families need homes. And so our conservative recovery plan will address this issue and makes homes more affordable for owners as well as renters. We plan to set in place incentives to build 1 million new homes in the next 3 years and ensure rural New Brunswick is included in any federal housing plan with dedicated funds tied to rural development. Far too often, the federal government, when they come up with a housing strategy or infrastructure strategy, it's focused on the big cities. And I'm not talking about Moncton and Fredericton and St. John. I'm talking about Toronto, Montreal, Vancouver. We have to ensure that the major cities in New Brunswick are included, as well as the rural areas, because I have heard time and time again how housing is a problem, and even people who are being evicted in places like St. Stephen cannot find another home. We're going to make it easier for more families to get a mortgage, and we're also going to ban foreign investors from buying homes here in New Brunswick and in Canada if they're not planning to live and move to Canada. We're also going to review the federal government's real estate portfolio. You know, Ottawa is the largest property owner in Canada. Ottawa owns 37,000 buildings. Some of them are right here in St. John. Others are scattered around our riding of New Brunswick Southwest.
Time check.
And we're going to release at least 15% of these buildings for homes. Got a lot more to say, but I'll end there. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Now moving over to another John. What is the Green Party's thoughts on affordable housing and rent controls and the taxing of primary residence sales?
Yes. Well, housing has become a real problem. It's become out of control. 14 years ago, I moved here from Ontario, and actually, my house sold for under what I wanted. Since moving to New Brunswick, I've talked to some of my former neighbors, and I found out that that house had sold, but had been bought and sold 5 times, with the price constantly going up. And then I say the cost of housing is a major problem and has to be looked at and come up with a solution. Because housing is becoming unaffordable for most people. And we also have a problem with affordable housing for those that are in lower income. And what the Green Party would want to go and do is start creating more co-op housing that used to be built 20, 30 years ago, and we got out of that. We need to go allow non-profit housing to provide rental space for people who are in need. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to Merrill with the People's Party of Canada. What are your thoughts on affordable housing, rent controls, and the taxing of primary residence for sale?
Okay. I have a rental property. I live in a house that I built myself. I have 2 rentals in the house, and I live in the third unit. And what I've seen is in the last year and a half, my taxes went up. My cost for everything else has gone up. And I'm not in a position to do the kind of work on the building that I would like to do. The materials to do that have gone up. And I go back to Mr. Irving and the fact that this man, these people, have increased the price of the basic building materials by over 400%. Now, there's something wrong with that equation. And that equation is what keeps private citizens from building their own homes, and being able to build another unit that somebody else can use. Now, with this price increase in lumber, we go back to the Crown lands that this corporation is working on, and there's been no increase to the province or to the private landowner who sells his wood. There's been no increase in that. That stays the same. So the cost is the same. The loggers who log that land, they haven't got an increase. The truckers who truck that to the mills, they haven't got an increase. And I don't know about the workers in the mills, but I'm betting dollars to donuts that they haven't gotten an increase. And yet at the top of that pile, at the top of that production line, sit the Irvings, who've got a 400% increase. And I think that affects housing here in New Brunswick a whole lot. I can't afford to look after my building. My costs have gone up, my taxes have gone up, and it's very hard for me now to provide the materials to upgrade my building the way I would like to. I think a lot of people are in the same situation. Young people can't build homes because they can't even make the down payment. They can't afford the materials to start with a small building and build it up into a home. Those are serious problems. And I don't think we're going to solve that by throwing money at it, more money at it, because that money is going to rise to the top like cream on milk. And it's going to go to the Irving Corporation or all those big mills or all the millionaires and billionaires who've tied into this. The statistics right now tell us that the billionaires, I'm going to take another few seconds. The billionaires of the world have increased their earnings, their net worth in the last year and a half by from 30 to 100%. 30 to 100%. The billionaires, okay? They're making a killing. I think Irving's in that club. And that's a big problem. I'm done.
Thank you, Merrill. Okay, moving on to Richard.
Thanks. Once again, some great points, Merle. New Democrats believe that everyone deserves the right to safe, affordable housing, a place to call home. Canada is in the midst of a national housing crisis. We have the highest the fastest growth in housing prices in the G7. We believe that it's time to relieve the stress and worry that people are going through simply by making it easier to afford to buy or rent a home. That's why we'll work with provinces and municipalities to build a capacity for social, community, and affordable housing providers, to provide rental support for co-ops, and to meet environmental efficiency goals. circling back to the first question we had on job creation, I left out housing, hoping we'd get back to this. This is another opportunity for great job creation here in the housing sector. New Democrats, will reduce barriers that exist for social and non-for-profit projects by establishing fast start funds so that communities can get these projects off the ground. We'll waive the federal tax on construction of new affordable rental units. And we'll provide immediate relief for families that are struggling to afford rent. New Democrats, we also want to bring forward long-term solutions. I feel like if we can demonstrate a need for a minimum wage or a guaranteed livable income, we should also be able to point to a price point at which people should be able to find a place to live. For instance, one of these long-term solutions might be to, let's set affordable rent to an actual amount. Right now, it's just a word. I see no reason why we shouldn't be maybe tying it to a minimum wage or a guaranteed livable income. For instance, if you go in to get a mortgage, they collect all your financials to calculate your debt service ratio and tell you how much you can afford. Why don't we do that on the other end with people who are trying to find affordable housing? If we know how much it costs just to survive these days, we should be able to provide a percentage, a fraction of that amount, which will allow people to have a place to call home. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Okay, we're getting down to just the last couple of questions, and John Williamson will be opening this one. Now, the disabled population is very underrepresented in government and in the workforce in general, and each of your platforms, talks a little bit about disability tax credits, but these really mean nothing if the disabled do not have an income. So what will each party specifically do to allow someone who's disabled to be able to enter the workforce and earn a wage that allows them to contribute as well as to live? So starting with you, John.
Thank you. Again, excellent question, because you're right. A benefit that can't be realized really is not a benefit to the individual. So a couple things. I'm going to take a step back. One of our first big priorities, of course, it doesn't focus exclusively on disabled Canadians, but it's a help in terms of finding work. And that is our plan for childcare, which if a family has a disabled parent who wants to get back in the workforce, of course, they face a number of challenges, but one, of course, is looking after the kids. Our plan is to allow parents to write off their child allowance, and for low and modest income earners, families, that's a refundable tax credit, which means even if they don't pay a lot of income tax, they get that benefit in their pocket, and that's up to $6,000 every single year. As well, we have a couple of ideas to help disabled Canadians. One, we want to double the disability supplement for Canadian workers as part of the Canadian Workers Benefit from $713 to $1,500. This will put money into the pockets of disabled Canadians that are working. And as well, we're going to increase the Canada Workers Benefit. Now, the Canada Workers Benefit is a benefit to all modest and low-income workers, and it's an effective pay raise that we're offering. It's $1 an hour. It's not enough, obviously, to make ends meet, but it is a step in the right direction. So we think by focusing these tax cuts for work, by keeping taxes low, and by helping families, that's a good start. But look, I also want to challenge the Chamber here. It's also up to employers to make room for disabled Canadians so they can be productive in work environments. So government has its part to do. We have a number of ideas to make more rewarding, to make it easier for disabled Canadians to get into the workforce. But at the end of the day, no government program is going to replace the openness and the welcoming conditions that an employer can make to an employee with a disability. So I urge your members to do more to give a disabled Canadian a chance and the opportunity to work in your workplace. Thank you.
Thank you, John. And you're absolutely correct. There is a role for the Chamber to play, and we frequently help businesses to better understand how the differently abled can actually contribute in their organizations. So we'll move on to John. What are your thoughts from the Green Party perspective on how do we allow the differently abled to earn a wage and allow them to contribute?
Well, and what I look at, what our party says is that we will enforce the Employment Equity Act to ensure that persons with disabilities have an equal opportunity to long-term employment and the advantages. And as I mentioned previously, to keep the government accountable for what services that are offered to these people with disabilities. It doesn't matter if the government comes up with programs for disability, if these programs and policies are not being acted upon. So I would make the government accountable. Thank you.
Merrill?
I've been an employer for 60 odd years, and listening to what I've just heard from the people here, I think there's some good points. I think we can work with employers to make sure that they are able to hire, be able to work with employees who have the qualifications to do the job. And I'm not saying, and I don't go along with things like meeting percentages. So many people who are handicapped should be able to take so many jobs. You talked about John. It's John. Yes, it is John. You talked about a clause in our laws, in our government laws, that there are rights for these people, and I believe those rights should be enforced to enable them to apply for the job on an equal status with everybody else. And I think that's a very necessary thing, so that if we support somebody with a handicap to the point where he can compete equally with other people, and from there on, it depends on his ability to do the job better than the rest of the people who are attempting to compete for that job. And I think that's a thing that's up to employers, but I think we can educate employers on that. And I think some good points have been made on that. And I'm for looking after them, but not putting them ahead just because they have a handicap. And we've done that in programs before, and I don't think that works. So we've done it in our government, for instance, with quotas. I think in the last one, it was we have a 50-50 split of people in our government in our top positions in the present Liberal government in Ottawa. I don't think it's a good idea. They didn't pick the top candidates, the top people to fill those positions, and I don't support that at all. I think I'm done.
Thank you, Merrill. Okay, Richard?
Yeah, thanks. So first of all, I'm really happy that we have an opportunity here to address what I believe is a group of marginalized individuals. One of the first things we need to do is work with the province to axe the HIP, the household income policy. I believe it's discriminatory, and I believe it's forcing people to live in isolation. But now, if we want to reduce barriers and allow more people an opportunity to enter the workforce, one of the first things we need to do is show real leadership in help dispelling the stigmas that some people carry here. We currently have CPP disability tax credits, but in my future, with a guaranteed livable income, we get to treat everyone as equally human. We can raise the minimum wage. We can provide pharmacare so that you can get your prescription with your health card instead of a credit card. We can provide affordable broadband internet access for everyone, because it's never been clearer that you can do a lot from your country right inside your own home. And speaking of homes, let's make sure everyone has a nice, safe, affordable place to call home. Regardless of abilities, I believe all of these things are someone that everyone deserves. Free of means testing, because I know we can do better. Thank you.
Moving on to Jason.
Okay. Over the past 6 years, we've made accessibility and disability inclusion a priority. We have focused on removing barriers and addressing disability discrimination and forging opportunities for Canadians with disabilities to work and enjoy the same quality of life as all Canadians deserve. Canadians with disabilities have a higher rate of unemployment. That is why a re-elected Liberal government will reintroduce a Disability Benefit Act, which will create a direct monthly payment, the credit disability benefit for low-income Canadians with disabilities ages 18 to 64. Once implemented, the new benefit will reduce poverty among persons with disabilities in the same manner as the Guaranteed Income Supplement and the Canadian Child Benefit. Canadians with disabilities also face significant barriers in the labor market and in the workplace. Furthermore, young people with disabilities are far more likely to be living in poverty than youth without disabilities. Yet thousands of young people with disabilities who have had the potential to work remain unemployed. A re-elected Liberal government will develop and implement the employment strategy for Canadians with disabilities. This strategy will focus on support for workers and employers and create inclusive and welcoming workplaces. It will also include an investment in a ready, willing, and able inclusive hire program to support individuals with intellectual disabilities and autism spectrum disorder. And will also create a stream of youth employment skills and strategy program up to 5,000 opportunities for a year for young people. This will help young Canadians with disabilities gain the skills, experience, and the abilities they need to make a successful transmission into the labor market and build successful careers.
Thank you, Jason. Now, we're running a little bit over, but we did start late. So the last question, I think it's important. So we're going to take 10 minutes to ask this question, and I think it wraps things up nicely. And we're going to start with John. What are your party's plans to balance the budget in a realistic time frame? All of our discussions are fine, but it comes down to how do we balance the budget in a realistic time frame?
In terms of balancing the budget, well, basically, as a member of the Green Party or the party itself, we can't balance the budget. As I say, we will not be forming the government, but we would go and keep the government, whether it's Conservative or Leader, accountable for what decisions they make. And in terms of as a member of Parliament or our party, we would be putting in our ideas and influence what decisions are made with the budget, and vote accordingly on approving it.
Thank you. Meryl?
Okay. Could you repeat the question, please?
The question is, what are your party's plans to balance the budget in a realistic time frame?
Okay. First thing we do is you cut off the foreign aid. We've been giving money away to the rest of the world without any oversight, and we've been giving away the future of Canadians, of our children and our grandchildren, by giving money away. So we've got to stop the foreign aid. That's the first step. Second step is to use the resources that we have in this country. We have a wonderful country that has loads of resources that are not being exploited and Canadians are not benefiting from. The first one, and I think the most accessible one that we can go to, is the oil industry. Most of Canada, and certainly all the Canada that are getting transfer payments, most of them have benefited from the oil industry in Alberta. Alberta's paid the bill for a lot of us here, but they've also provided employment and an income for a whole lot of people out of the Maritimes, which enabled them to go make some money, come back here and build a home. So we need to get that oil industry up and running. It's ours. We've got quality oil that we can sell to the rest of the world. We should be bringing that pipeline east. There's a tremendous amount of job opportunities there, and we have people in Canada who are already trained to do that. When we bring that oil pipeline to the east, we need to build an East Coast refinery, another one, to run head-on with the Irving Empire. Right now we're buying oil from overseas, and it's coming here by boat, and it comes here. It's exempt from the carbon tax and things like that. But anyways, there's a monopoly here. The Irvings have a monopoly. We need to break that monopoly by inviting the oil companies to make us an offer to put a refinery here in Eastern Canada. The building alone will be a tremendous thing for income for people in the Maritimes. Once it's up and running, there will be more jobs, and we will be selling oil to the rest of the world at world prices. That is a big thing for our country. So we're eliminating giving away money, we're building the ability to make money, and I think that will get us out. From there on, we can use our resources and do secondary manufacture, and we can promote that. Right now, we're buying everything we get from China. We need to buy from Canada and make Canada first in everything we do. And I think when we do that, we'll be able to balance the budget.
Thank you. Okay, Richard?
Hi, thank you. So first of all, New Democrats will start by exercising fiscal responsibility. We understand that money for most Canadians is a finite resource, and we are comprised of average people who've honed our skills of doing more with less over the years. We want to evolve beyond fossil fuels. That means no more subsidies and no more pipelines. We're going to invest instead in people through social programs like healthcare, a solid minimum wage, dental care, a guaranteed livable income, daycare, paid sick days, long-term care, and housing. We can Google facts. The OECD tells us these strong social programs give us a competitive advantage. That means financial. We'll invest instead in green technologies, not nuclear, wind, solar, tidal, hydro, batteries. These are the forces that we must harness to pay for our everyday changing power needs. We'll also do a better job of collecting revenue. I believe money is scarce for a lot of us, but nevertheless, goods and services continue to be bought up at record rates. But too much of this money is leaking out of what should be a mostly closed system. We believe addressing this issue will start to reverse the inequality that we all know exists today. I honestly believe we can do better. Thank you.
Thank you. Jason?
Thank you, David, and thank you again for having us here today. Canada has one of the best balance sheets in the G7, and we are committed to keeping it that way by maintaining Canada's AAA credit rating and a low and declining debt to GDP ratio. We have put in place a clear and fiscal guardrails which will keep Canada's fiscal responsible government long-term. Our plan focuses on investment in people, innovation, and communities in order to position Canada as a leader in the clean growth and to be a healthier, fairer, and more prosperous society. By doing this, we will make the Canadian economy more resilient, productive, and sustainable, and most importantly, grow the middle class. Our fiscal costing plan for our platform is responsible, fair, transparent, and prudent. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, John?
Yes, thank you. I know the question, so it doesn't need to be repeated. I appreciate that. So our plan is to balance within 10 years. We don't believe budgets balance themselves. We've already seen the Government of Canada's credit rating drop under the current government, and we recognize the spending, when you're spending $500 million a day, is just not sustainable. So federal Conservatives believe we have to get this economy moving, get the country moving economically, so we have tax revenues to balance the books. We also believe in focusing on priority areas, things like healthcare and less spending in other areas that are outside of our priorities or things that we just shouldn't be involved in at all. One of my colleagues mentioned foreign aid, for example. I think foreign aid needs to be tied with outcomes. Countries that are focused on developing democratic institutions should qualify. Those that have poor human rights records, less so. Places like mainland China, for example, where the federal government under the Liberals continues to fund foreign aid. So we do have a credible plan to balance the books while creating jobs and growing the economy. And I hope you'll give Conservatives your vote on September 20th. Thank you.
Thank you, John. And thank you to all of the candidates. I very much appreciate all of the efforts and the research that you've done. We had a tremendous volume of questions that went out first, as we've had a lot received from our membership and the general public. So thank you very much. I'll pass it over to Dean, the chair of the St. John Region Chamber of Commerce. Dean, for closing remarks.
Great. Thanks, David. And thank you for everybody that attended online. Thank you for the candidates that gave up their mornings and a lot of their time to research and to come to have a good conversation with the people that were listening. This is the third of the 3 sessions that we've held. I personally think that it's provided good information for the people in those ridings to make an informed decision. But the most important thing is do your research, support what speaks to you, and make sure you go vote, because that's your opportunity to have a say in the democratic process. So with that, thank you, have a great day, and see you at the next Chamber event.